Hello, this is the Paul Pluta channel, and today we're discussing horology with one of my big fans here is Clive. Today's question is, Clive, what if Paul Pluta channel watches became worthless?
Well, that's a real big concept. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm just saying, Clive, this could happen. I mean, watches themselves, what are they? They are... Kids these days don't seem to understand horology. They're not really into this sort of stuff. And what would happen if the demand for watches just fell away? Just fell away. And it would happen slowly, like the pocket watch. Have you ever had a desire to have a pocket watch, Clive?
Yeah, actually, because if you're a Doctor Who fan, obviously you want one with Ancient High Gallifreyan on the back. Deny that.
I see. I see, yes.
But yeah, so you're saying, yeah, this whole thing could quickly become FUBAR and like a little panache and be as bad as Brisbane in September.
Yes.
No, I still don't think so. I think that there will always be a need for them. Luxury, I think there'll always be status. It's not like men. If we ever get to the point where men wear jewelry other than wristwatches, I don't know if I want to be a part of that world, quite frankly.
I see. I see.
I see. So yeah, so it's just it's one of the few ways that besides ties that men can express individuality.
That's exactly right. You are true about that. I got to tell you the truth there. I think that wristwatches could really die. It's not as far-fetched as you think. How many Jenners these days have a wristwatch?
Well, you know, they interviewed, I can't remember who it was, may have been the CEO of Omega or possibly even Rolex, and they thought, well, are you afraid of the Apple Watch? And he said, no, we're ecstatic about smartwatches. He said our biggest competitor is not the smartwatch, it's the mobile phone. And I actually came back into wristwatches after the Apple Watch.
I see. That's what got you back in there.
Yeah, actually, because it's just like, you know, just became used to having information, some sort of information on my wrist.
I see.
But I think they're all now. Will the luxury wrist market, as it currently is, will it continue indefinitely? Probably not. There's going to probably have to be some adjustments on the way. They can't just keep increasing prices 10% or more every year indefinitely.
You think that's wrong?
I think it's untenable.
Why?
You know, I think it's going to be Brisbane. I think it's going to be Melbourne in September if they keep doing that.
Yes. Yes. Why do the young folk not look up to watches? Do your children like watches?
Actually, I got my kids an Apple Watch, and I kind of gave them the bug as well. Because they're priced out of the market for the most part. That's why I kind of think Christian bringing vintage pieces into public consciousness is kind of coming. He's kind of raising the next crop of budding horologists. That's why I think you know, when it comes to the field of horology, I think Christian is doing the Lord's work, no pun intended.
Yes.
And the watches that he specializes in are interesting. I mean, he has a great sense of style. I cannot sing his praises highly enough.
No, he does. He does.
But you know, everything he sells is interesting. There's nothing that I look. I mean, you know, I'll go and look at it. I'll certainly look and see what he has for sale. And even the lesser brands, it's just like, that's interesting. That's kind of cool. But I would think those kind of people catching it at an earlier age, and then once they're career fields mature, once their earnings potentials go up, then I think they'd start looking at more, at more exclusive pieces.
Yes.
So, even if the the luxury wristwatch market, quote unquote, crashed, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in the long term, because if the prices came down, of course they wouldn't be as exclusive, but more people will still get into them.
Yes, I see what you're saying. That's a very, very good point you raised there.
And there's more population every day. Even if the percentage, even if the percentage gets smaller, as the if the percentage gets smaller, but if the population keeps increasing, that smaller percentage will still grow over time.
See, the world is changing. We no longer, books are no longer what they used to be. Publishing newspapers, it's no longer what it used to be. The internet is the new world, and the internet encourages the smartphone. The smartphone has a time-telling instrument on it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But on the other hand, everyone has the same 3 or 4 smartphones. Not the same with watches. And again, that gets back into individuality, men's jewelry, and a way to basically status, and a way for us to identify you.
Does it worry you? Does it worry you if the watch market ended? Would it worry you?
No, it wouldn't. I'd still love my pieces. The only thing that would worry me is if it ended and I wouldn't be able to get them serviced. That's what worries me.
Yes. Yes, I see what you're saying there. Are your children into watches?
Smartwatches so far, but right now they're still, they're late teenagers, early 20s, so they really don't have the earning potential right now for fine watches. Then again, they probably just figuring, we'll just wait for dad to kick it, then we'll have all we want. And they probably, and they would, let's be honest.
Yes, I do understand what you're saying there. Tell me this, with wristwatches itself there, when you were a kid, when did you first have the desire to own a fine instrument?
It was a different time back then. Like I said, I just remember having an old manual wind Timex, like maybe 10 or 11 years old, and the band broke. And literally, I can remember having to go out McLean Rogers Park with flashlights with Dad and looking for that $12 Rolex. And that McLean Rogers is a big park. I think we may have even found. I think we even found it. But I just remember, of course, $12 was quite a bit back then.
Yes, it definitely was. And you lost it, is that right? You lost it in this park.
Right. Band broke.
The band broke.
Didn't even realize it until I looked down. And it's like, oh, it's so what time it is. I wonder what time I have to get home. And I can't complete the rest of the thought because I don't want you to lose your funding for the video.
Yes, of course. So it's kids these days, are they into watches? What do you think?
Smartwatch. Well, smartwatches, I think. Certainly sports watches, the Casio G-Shocks are still popular, but it's hard to know how aspirational they are right now for kids.
I see.
But on the other hand, I think it's something that they can grow into later on. Really, all it takes is just one cool guy or you to be wearing a nifty wristwatch, and for people, for other people to look at it and say, One of the things that was pointed out on another channel, which I've already mentioned, was he was talking about how Breitling was using I think The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or some other reality trash TV show that actually embedded themselves quite well in the program.
Yes.
So, and part of that, and actually, I think the watch groups themselves, the watchmakers, actually got a little bit more involved with social media. Actually, quit being lazy and just pinning up billboards and golf tournaments, and actually went to got the next generation buyers and started cultivating them. I think they don't have to die out necessarily.
I see what you're saying there.
Well, and part of it is that they've become used to the get rich quick, the easy money, going after just waiting for busloads of Asian tourists to stop by and buy their watches hand over fist.
Yes.
Without having to really work for it. I still think there's room. I think they'll just might have to work a little bit harder for it now. I think they'll have to be a little bit better about innovations. They might have to be a little bit more aggressive about pricing, or at least curbing price increases.
Oh, I see. Got you. Do you think, in recent times, the watch market has had some really big ups and downs? Brands like Rolex seems to be defying the market, but Omega seems to be really struggling because they are flooding the discount market. You can see them, Joma Shop, stores like that are selling them at huge discounts. Do you think the discounting is going to hurt the hobby, or how do you feel about that? Does it upset you when you see a brand discounting?
Well, does it upset me when I see no, it's not like if I just bought an Omega Speedmaster Professional for twice as much from an authorized dealer 6 months ago, I'd be quite upset. And again,
would you be going back to that dealer and saying, what the hell's going on?
There'd probably be a couple of strongly worded letters.
Okay.
And, like I said, it might hurt goodwill in the short run. But on the other hand, if that gets more people into buying, it's just like you said, people talk about the watch bug. Those watches going cheaply on the gray market.
Yes.
Will get more people hooked on the watch bug, with the watch bug. So ultimately, it's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, to some extent there. Yes, it is. It is. It is. I kind of see the discounting as being a little bit dangerous because a lot of people get angry when they see things. These alpha males who like watches, they get angry when someone else can get it cheaper. They get very upset about these things.
Well, and I think a nice intermediate step, and part of that is Omega.
Yes.
Being kind of stagnant with the product lines. I think what would help in the meanwhile is maybe just at least holding off on the price increases. Now, in the case of the heavily discounted Omega pieces on the gray market, what I think they're worried about is devaluing that watch or devaluing the brand. Sort of like Tag Heuer, because everyone knows you do not pay full retail for a Tag Heuer. It's just like the MSRP is a fantasy. It's pie in the sky.
Yes.
You go in asking for, expecting, and getting the discount, even brand new. And that's why I think Omega is running the risk of devaluing the brand, where if this continues, hopefully it's just hopefully it's just a momentary oversupply, and maybe this is the time to get an Omega.
Yes, that's a very. Have you had your Omega itch? You still have your Omega itch, don't you? You were looking for one.
Still have my Omega
before.
I still have my Omega Virginity, and I still might consider it. But on the other hand, it looks like they've been fairly stable at 3350 to 35, so it doesn't look like the bubble's going to pop anytime soon. So still pondering it.
Yes. Does the fact that Rolex is holding its value so well appeal to you as a collector? Does that make you love the brand more?
I think it makes everyone love the brand more. It makes it a safe bet. That's why when you're starting off, Rolex is swimming in the kiddie pool. You don't have to, you're not going to swim vast seas, but you're not going to drown either, as long as you buy prudently and buy pre-owned. That's why everyone likes Rolex.
That's very true.
And that's why Rolex, even the authorized dealers, have a vested interest in authenticating and verifying the used pieces, because the used pieces holding their value is what keeps people coming back. Maybe not like people like you or I, but the newer, the more timid, and the less adventurous, and that's fine. Let them buy the new watches. I'll wait till they get tired of it and buy it from used.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Tell me this: people you work with, does everyone have an expensive watch, or how do you find?
Actually, a lot of us do. A lot of us do. Younger guys have some decent looking, date justs.
Okay.
Some have a lot of people. I mean, then you've got, GMTs and Submariners, variations there. And the older guys, the more successful, the more established, have the Presidents.
I see. The Presidents themselves, is that still a status symbol, you think, for up-and-coming young people?
Up-and-coming young people, no. That's still the older white guys. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, and like I said, the younger guys, I do see some Breitlings. I see some NAF timers there. And I see some god-awful watches, but hopefully they're brand spanking new, and hopefully they'll grow out of it.
Do you judge people on the watch they wear?
A little bit. It's something I do initially. But there's another guy. He's actually a younger guy. Well, he's not that young, I guess, anymore. Younger than I am. But yes. He had a Breitling, and to me, I thought it was a little gaudy and a little flashy. And we were talking about it. And he said, I bought a Submariner, new, and I had nothing but problems with it. It must have it seems like it wouldn't want to. It couldn't really keep accurate time. Kept losing time. I took it back to the authorized dealer, BC Clark's, 2 or 3 times, and weren't able to fix the problem. I saw the Breitling while I was there and fell in love with it. Sold my Submariner, bought the Breitling, and haven't thought twice. And who am I to tell him that his journey is wrong? I may not want to join him on that path. That doesn't mean necessarily he's wrong.
Ooh, that's a bit of a nasty thing to do. Jesus.
What? Tell him he's wrong?
Yes. You can't tell another man what to do with their money,
Well, unless you are a Democrat, then that's something we're pretty good at. But otherwise, no.
Tell me this. If the watch market collapsed, would you still keep your pieces and cherish them, or would they become worthless in your eyes as well?
No, I still like my pieces. I think that, and like I said, even if it collapses, it doesn't mean they'll be worth less. They might just worthless. They just might be worth less. Okay.
Okay. Fair point there. Fair point. So you love them. In your lifetime, do you think they could stop being collectible like that, or what do you think will happen?
I think there will always be people who collect them. Always.
Because really, the big watchmakers, they've never made so many watches ever. They're churning out prestige production. Rolex is selling about a million watches a year, which is astronomical.
Right.
It's really quite amazing what is happening in that that market space. And
yeah, but even despite that, though, they seem to get the mix kind of right anyway. They pretty much keep things the same, but they innovate just enough to keep it from being stale, or for being too solid. Unlike other people, unlike, again, I think Megap's problem is that it's just churned out. The Speedmaster Professional is by far the most popular one they've got, probably the most sellable watch they've got, and their response was just to churn them out by the truckloads, trying to make all the bucks they can instead of looking into new designs, new watches. With the possible exception of the blue ceramic one from Baselworld. That one's kind of interesting. I don't know if I wouldn't buy it brand new, but I might maybe think about waiting for it to hit the used market. But that's an aberration. That's something that doesn't happen all the time.
I understand. It's something that I find interesting. So many things have changed. We're in a time where, can you remember when stamp collecting was popular?
It still is.
Okay.
Still is. People still use stamps. The funny part is actually I found on YouTube they've got the complete series of Land of the Lost. I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. So
oh yes, I like the professor. The scaredy cat. What was his name?
That's Gilligan's Island.
The Land of the Lost had the professor. That guy, the scaredy cat.
I don't really remember that. Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition in the greatest earthquake ever known.
You're right. You're right.
On the rapids.
I was thinking about I was thinking about that space movie, Lost in Space.
Yeah, okay, that's Dr. Zachary Smith from Lost in Space. Yes.
Yeah, I love Dr. Zachary Smith. He was amazing.
Really great alliterative skills.
Yes, I liked him. Lost in Space. That was that was late 60s, wasn't it? Lost in Space?
Yes. Yeah, it went for about 6 or maybe like 4 seasons. Land of the Lost, I think, was maybe 3, but it kind of sucked after the first 2. But Land of the Lost was strictly kiddie stuff as well. Saturday morning with Grumpy the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the Slee Stack. The thing is, it's like watching it's like, oh my God, it's just like literally like 7-year-old Clyde just all of a sudden just like, looked up from his breakfast cereal and got excited, and then watching a few episodes just thinking, oh my God, this is a lot more horrible than I remember it being. I thought this was awesome when I was a kid, and it is so slow paced. Even practical effects, you can tell they're using horrible, but I still have a very strong nostalgia for it.
Nostalgia TV. Now we're moving into a digital world, like cameras, film cameras. They're kind of out of fashion now.
Right.
That ended very quickly. Remember when the first digital cameras came out, they were never as good as a film camera.
No, they were toys.
And then in the early noughties, whoomp, it overtook very, very quickly without warning. And film cameras became worthless.
Yep. And film became worthless and film developing.
Well, look at Kodak. Look at Kodak.
Well, on the other hand, they did, they had something for 100 years now. But I think there's not really quite the same, though, carrying a cell phone around as a watch. If there was infinite variety of cell phones available, possibly. But everyone basically has the same 2 or 3 cell phones, so it really doesn't distinguish.
I see what you're saying.
So there's no way there's no way to distinguish me from the other schlub. We both have iPhones.
Yes.
Because we're older.
You like your iPhone, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think you're talking about photography. It's amazing how the cameras, the lenses, get better every year.
Yes.
Take a picture of a check on an app and have it downloaded into your account over the internet just strikes me as witchcraft. Hey, are you going to do any shows with Suckerhorn, or Suckerhorn's on the board?
Yeah, no, he just wants to have a little bit of time out today. I asked him before. He just taking it easy. Let's do another. Let's do. Do you want to do another show, John? Sorry, Clive. Do you want to do another show?
Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. One more quick one. Are we going to get to it pretty quick?
One more quick one. We'll be straight into it. Okay.
Awesome.
Couple minutes, and I'll be there, Clive.
All right.
Give me a small toilet break. Small toilet break.